I'm Dave.
I'm Erika, and this is Rock of Aging.
This is the podcast where we explore the depths of our hair metal past and try to discover what it is about this music and this era that has captivated us for decades. Erika, what do we have coming up today?
Well, for episode 15, we are talking about how MTV didn't just show music, it shaped it. From fashion to band mythology, music videos made us believe rock stars lived in another universe.
Yeah, MTV didn't just play music, it made stars, created myths, and destroyed a few careers along the way, that's for sure. So grab your Aquanet and your VHS tapes. We're diving back to August 1st, 1981. So for this episode's Dave's Not So Deep Dives, I'm going to talk about a record by a band called Spitz called Something to Consume. Something to Consume is this Austin, Texas band's debut album. It came out in the summer of 2025, and it is sort of a hybrid sound between metal, punk, and grunge. If you put the three styles together, that's kind of where you wind up. They are a heavy band, an extremely rocking group. I saw them live in 2023. And they were the opener for Amo and the Sniffers. I have to say, I've never even thought about Amo and the Sniffers after that show. Spitz completely dominated. The album was my number 5 of 2025 in my video that I did last year about best albums. And I don't know, I can't say enough positive things. They are all incredible musicians because 3 of them play drums and they rotate during the show and swap out instruments. They also are of 3 different singers, and so 3 different lyricists. They come up with different perspectives. I walked into them, seeing them live, having no idea who they were, and I walked out, and it was great. And they're not only a good live band, but this album is very, very good. If you're familiar with bands like, well, everyone knows Nirvana and whatever, but bands like Failure, I would say Babes in Toyland, Hole, stuff like that is a good reference point. But they are very, very heavy as well. So they're definitely kind of a metal band as well.
Amazing. I've, again, never heard of this band. So I'm going to have to check them out, especially if they're a nice kind of combo or segue amongst multiple eras. That sounds like a super cool band. So
yeah, and just incredible live. I mean, they were so fun. The singer took the microphone and jumped into the crowd and then went all the way to the back. This was at the waiting room, stood up on the bar in the back of the bar and was singing from back there.
Wow. And they're all cool. Women? Is this right?
All women. Yep.
Women? Amazing. All women. Now we're going to move into my atmosphere check. And this is the segment that I always do every week that sort of sets the stage for what we're going to talk about here. And of course, today we're going to talk about the MTV era. MTV for Gen X was not a channel or a pastime. It was a place. It was a literal place. We had familiar friends and faces there, like the MTV VJs and the news reporters and the bands themselves. And for me anyway, I feel like I checked in with those friends and faces regularly. And if I didn't, I felt like I missed something. It was like the beginning of FOMO for the Gen X crowd. This was also kind of our pop culture and style check-in opportunity. The makeup, the clothes, it was so inspirational for my daily life. And for me in particular, I was religious about watching Headbangers Ball on Saturday nights. I'm kind of convinced it's why I never got on the Saturday Night Live bandwagon, because I was usually busy with MTV on Saturday nights. And this is also when TV was still a communal experience. So you couldn't fast forward. You weren't fed content based on your algorithm. It was definitely a shared experience. You didn't know what you were going to see when you turned it on, but it made the channel and the music feel more urgent and more relevant. You didn't want to miss anything. And it was the first era in time when music didn't just live in our ears, it was a visual too. And how the bands presented themselves in music videos helped you decide whether you were a fan or not. So that's the atmosphere here that MTV created.
I want my MTV.
Right into the bands and videos that defined our 80s metal era.
Yes, I got my MTV hat back on. It's
nice.
A little dirty and grungy.
Sweatshirt too.
I just see that's at least in better condition. This hat was at the bottom of a closet. You can see how dirty it is even on the screen. I feel gross just wearing it, but I'm going to do that because this is how much I care about the show. I'll suffer for it. Right. So we are talking about MTV and its origins and how it affected us, especially in the 80s. MTV did launch August 1st, 1981 was its premiere day. And most people didn't have it at first. Okay. First of all, not everyone, very few people in 1981 had cable television. If you know, it seems like such a basic thing, and most people are now cutting the cord. And MTV was a very, very bold idea. I mean, making a 24-hour channel that's like the radio.
Turn it on, leave it on. America, see the music you want to see.
But it's visual radio. And of course, there were some difficulties at the beginning because not all the cable companies carried it. Not a lot of people had cable TV. I mean, cable came to Omaha in 1983. Okay. And my family got it. I mean, it came to my neighborhood probably at the end of the year, but my best friend at the time, Bart, his family, it hit his neighborhood. So we would just go every weekend and just watch tons of MTV, just all night long, pretty much. Whenever his mom went to bed, we would turn on MTV and just watch that for the rest of the night. I mean, that, and occasionally we would watch like scrambled Playboy Channel or something because, you know, that's what you do when you're like 12. But it was just mesmerizing. I mean, even bands, there were bands that I'd never, ever heard of or seen that were on there because my life was limited to radio at the time. MTV changed a lot of things because you did have to have a visual identity. You weren't just doing your record and then that was it. And we did talk about in a video a while back about 70s artists having a difficult time adapting to the 1980s.
Yeah.
And one of the consistent problems with those artists was their sort of embrace of this new visual element. Like they were seemingly stuck in a certain era where they just made the record and toured, and they weren't prepared to deal with this new era of being visual and of having to make a presentation. Now, do you remember the first video that you were really like blown away by? Not the first one you ever saw, but just like the first one where you were just like, wow, that was cool.
Well, you know, I don't know that I remember my very first video experience. I mean, I was pretty young. Like 1981 for me was first grade. 1983 was only third grade. So like, I don't remember even when I started watching MTV. It's just always sort of been part of my life. But I do remember having like a jaw-dropping sort of moment with Welcome to the Jungle, for example. The first time I saw Guns N' Roses, I thought that was like the pillar of everything cool and everything I wanted in my life at that moment. I've mentioned before Poison's video for I Won't Forget You. That was a very monumental video for me. And Wanted by Bon Jovi. I've watched that video countless times. Still, when I hear the song, I can tell you exactly what's happening in the video at every single moment because it's just burned into my brain. So there were a lot of videos that had that sort of effect on me. And, you know, I think that MTV was sort of like also the predecessor of these cable channels getting really nichey because, you know, who would have thought that like anybody needed a channel all about food? But yeah, we have the Food Network. And who would have thought we needed a channel all about home renovations? But then here comes HGTV. So, you know, it was one of the very earliest niche channels to really focus on one audience or one type of content and roll with it. And it really revolutionized the way we watch TV from that point forward.
It did. And in the early days, you know, eventually we got like Headbangers Ball in 120 minutes. And they did start to do what the world is like now, which is everything is separated by genre. And they did start to do that probably about 86, 87, where it was like, yeah, if you were metal, you were only played on Headbangers Ball. If you were alternative, you were only played on 120 minutes. Whereas the early days, you could see The Cure next to Motorhead or something. And that didn't seem that strange, but it did get kind of genrefied. As far as the first video that really blew my mind, or I was aware of, was maybe Mr. Roboto by Styx. I was already a big Styx guy, so I wanted to see a Styx video when I got MTV. And that video, you know, it had the Mr. Roboto part. It had the sort of the thematic stuff of their album, Kilroy Was Here, that was going on at that time. And that sort of left an impression on me. I mean, nowadays, when I look back at that period, I did a whole video about that record by Styx, Kilroy Was Here. It's sort of embarrassing now, but I will tell you at the time, I loved it. I mean, I was obsessed with it. And I did think that video was extremely cool.
Yeah, there was, one thing that we were talking about is, did MTV make bands look cooler than they actually were? And no, they didn't, because the bands were freaking cool. Like, just the fact that they were a band on MTV, like, I never had an experience where I was like, oh, that band's, not cool. And I know this because I've met them in person and now I see how lame they are or something like that. Like, I
Right.
feel like these people were like in a different stratosphere. I remember going to shows because, I started going to shows after MTV. So, for the most part, I went to my first concert at a pretty young age, but it was 1984 probably, or 1985, when I saw Michael Jackson at Texas Stadium in Dallas, Texas. That was my first concert. And so I had already seen Michael in visually. And so also I think my generation was the first generation for that to have happened, where you see entire stories put together by these artists on MTV, and then you go see the show live. And I just remember thinking, I can't believe like I'm in the same like stratosphere. I'm breathing the same air as like the superstar that's on the stage right now. Like, it was mind blowing.
With the VJs.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I don't know, when you came into MTV, these guys might not have been the VJs, but these are the originals. It's JJ Jackson, Nina Blackwood, Mark Goodman in the middle, Martha Quinn, and Alan Hunter.
Oh, yeah,
the
they were all
original
there.
VJs. And they
Yeah,
were
they were all
so
there.
cool. I mean, I thought these guys were the greatest. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody had their favorite, but I thought all of them were fine. And whenever if I turned on, it wasn't like, oh crap, Alan Hunter's on, never mind, I'm going to turn on at some other time. It was just like, no, you just watched them. JJ Jackson was cool, and Nina Blackwood was supposed to be the I don't know what, her sultry kind of like whatever,
Yeah.
with her sounds like she smokes like 10 packs of cigarettes a day when she talks and stuff like that. Did you have a favorite of those original 5?
I mean, of the original 5, not really. Like, I don't remember being really attracted, to any of them in terms of wanting to watch their shows or listen to their content. I will say that now, though, I listen to 80s on 8 on Sirius XM pretty regularly, and these guys are still on. JJ's not, and Martha's not, but the others
Right.
are. And I absolutely love Alan Hunter now. I don't remember loving him, I guess, when he was on MTV. I'm sure I did, but now I just adore him. I love the way he introduces the songs, the stories he tells. He's super engaging. And so he's probably, out of the ones that you just showed, he's probably my favorite.
Okay. Well, my favorite, probably not going to be a surprise, because it was, and this is just of the original 5 I'm not talking about of all time, because we'll get to that in a second, was Martha Quinn. I mean, she was just great. She was just the all-American girl, and she seemed really cool. And she was cute, but didn't have that unattainable sort of vibe, where she wasn't like a supermodel. She seemed kind of like a regular person on the show.
Girl Next Door.
The girl next door. She was really good at interviews. I know she was real tight with David Lee Roth. She did some good interviews with him. So I thought she was my favorite of the originals.
Mhm.
Now, when you get into like the second wave of VJs, and then you're talking about like, okay, let me see here. We talk about like Carolyn Heldman, Daisy Fuentes, Downtown Julie Brown, Karen Duffy, Karen Bryant, Adam Curry, Ricky Rackman. There were some others, but
well, I mean, you can stop right there, because Adam Curry and Ricky Rackman were by far my 2 favorite all-time MTV VJs, by far.
Okay, so you'd be going with Ricky Rackman as your
Oh
favorite.
yeah, absolutely. Okay. Or Adam Curry. Like, I would have to say probably my all-time favorite MTV VJ was Adam Curry. Adam was born in the US, but he grew up in the Netherlands, and it made him seem sort of like exotic and foreign. He was so Lost Boys-esque. Like, he had like the hair and the look. He did quite a bit with Dutch broadcasting, which is how he ultimately made his way to the US and to MTV. And Adam, himself, like I said, looked like an 80s metal rock star with his long feathered blonde hair. He hosted Headbangers Ball from 1988 to 1990. He took it over from Kevin Seal, who was not, in my opinion, a good fit for that show.
No.
But then he handed the show over to the one and only Ricky Rackman, who I also loved and adored. And Ricky, obviously was on for a really long time. He's got his own personality. He moved on to like racing, and he's done a bunch of other things. But Adam and Ricky, I mean, by far my
Ricky is completely associated with Headbangers Ball. There's no, I knew that they had other hosts, but like, he is Headbangers Ball.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm sure
absolutely.
every day when someone recognizes him, they'll be like, oh man, I used to watch Headbangers Ball, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure he hears that every single day of his life. But that's where he was a legend. Now, for me, my all-time favorite of the second wave, I did like Carolyn Heldman quite a bit, but I have to say my favorite was Daisy Fuentes. Loved her. Still do, basically. I know she's married to Richard Marx.
She is married to Richard Marx.
She's married to Richard Marx. That's pretty nice. But she didn't always host. She didn't host any real shows. She was just a regular VJ. But I mean, I'm sorry, if you're that pretty, I'm going to watch you no matter what. So
you know who I loved though, like of the females, I love Downtown Julie Brown. I thought she was cool. She had the really accent and the look, and she
that
was
whole wubba 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 thing or whatever that
well, she was kind of like fashion forward, you know, like she really had like a look and a style all of her own. And you know, she didn't make the list, you know, at the top of the tier like Adam Curry, Ricky Rackman, but she was, for me, especially of the women, the coolest VJ.
Yeah, I mean, she is really good. I would like to just, because I mentioned her name and didn't show her picture, I should.
Well, I don't know why she's dressed like a candy striper in this picture. That's actually not a look I've ever seen her wear before, but amazing.
Whenever I talk about the old DJs on MTV, I talk about Carolyn Heldman and nobody remembers her.
I don't remember her.
Yeah, she was like late 80s. That's her right there. She was late 80s, probably 87 through like the early 90s. And I never really saw her again after she left MTV, but I always kind of liked her. I don't know. I liked her hair. I liked all sorts of stuff. I was a fan of Carolyn Heldman. So
what about like the news people though too? Like Kurt Loder. I remember watching Kurt Loder. Like I felt like he was my generation's version of like Walter Cronkite or something. Like when he came on, like I felt like, okay, I'm gonna get the straight news now. Like he's gonna tell me what happens. And he was just like a trustworthy guy.
I used to kind of get bothered by him because I see heavy metal bands, like all of the stuff that we talk about, always got terrible reviews in Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah.
And he was from Rolling Stone magazine. So I had a chip on my shoulder about him for sure. Whenever I'd see Kurt Loder, I would be like, oh, come on, here he goes again with this bullshit. And I knew he was going to say something negative about someone I liked. And so I was just like, I was not prepared for it. But he was better. And then there was, what do you remember the redheaded woman who also did the news?
No.
Shit, remember her name. She was there also. She was on there for a long time. I just am blanking on her name, but yeah, that was the those are the good old days of MTV. I mean, amazing stuff here. Well, they just seemed really cool too. Like they knew everything and whatever. Like DJs on the radio, and I say this as someone who's been on the radio for over 20 years, they're not thought of as that cool anymore. Once MTV came in and you could see who was talking to you, that became cool. And the person who is just, you don't know what they look like, they're on the radio, they're not quite as cool after that. So
they became sort of like WKRP-ish.
Yeah, video killed the radio star. I mean, just like that's the first ever video on MTV. It was true.
Yeah, yep.
Demand your MTV!
There were bands that told big stories. Duran Duran's videos always had a big story. David Bowie had big stories, Madonna. But for metal bands, mostly I think what their appeal was they wanted to make it look like their live concert. For heavy metal stuff, I didn't need much more than performance. And if it does have to be a story, the storyline I kind of liked was the sort of the kid getting picked on or whatever, kind of a, and then somehow this heavy metal, the music or whatever, kind of turns you into this super cool, awesome dude. And you have all this confidence and now your life is so much better and chicks are interested and all this. Like, Twisted Sister made an art form.
I was going to say, that sounds like every Twisted Sister video ever.
Twisted Sister made an art form out of this particular sort of video style. And if it had to be a story, I appreciated stories like that.
Yeah, I would agree. Like when it came to the 80s metal era, I definitely wanted to see the bands in all their glory. And actually they were brilliant because they were selling concert tickets right alongside the production of these videos, because you would see their stage presence, their performance, the pyro, like everything that happened during the show, you would kind of get a glimpse of during these music videos. And so you wanted to see them live. Like you were so excited to see them in their element. Not a lot of them had like you said, the epic storylines, and kind of when they did, like I was kind of like, this is, lame.
Like November Rain by Guns N' Roses. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I did model my prom dress after Stephanie Seymour's wedding dress, with like the short front and the long back. So, I mean,
could you actually tell somebody what that video was about if you had to explain it?
No.
Like all of a sudden, Slash is in the middle of the desert playing guitar. How'd you get to the desert? Now you're playing guitar. I mean,
Bon Jovi did a lot of sort of romantic sort of stories as well, storytelling.
They always kept the performance in it, though. They never skipped performance.
So I'm with you. Like, I really like the performance videos the best too. But for me, like, I was so captivated by, what you would call like the video vixens. I copied everything Bobbi Brown did. And of course, Bobbi Brown was the iconic blonde in the video Cherry Pie. She did some other things as well, including Once Bitten, Twice Shy with Great White. She was my 80s metal style muse. I cut my hair like her. I would want to dress like her. She was actually also a model on Star Search, which I remember her very well being on Star Search. More than likely, like, she was like kind of like we talked about in the women in rock episode that we did right before this one. There was no like on ramp for women, like, until Vixen came along. For me anyway, it was like you were one of these women. Like,
right.
your way of getting in would be like you were a model or you were in one of the videos. And so for me, she was sort of like my personal on ramp. I felt like I definitely wanted to be like Bobbi Brown. She was my all-time favorite.
Well, of all the video vixens, there's maybe two that people know, that everyone knows their name, and that's Bobbi Brown and Tawny Katane. And beyond that, you probably don't know who they are. I mean, maybe some rap fans know if there's certain women that appear in hip hop videos or whatever, maybe they know their name. But for me, I only knew who Bobbi Brown was and Tawny Katane.
Yeah, and they're really hard to find too, because I've gone down that rabbit hole before. Like, I'm trying to remember, I think there was a woman in a Cinderella video, even like the Cinderella twins. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I know exactly.
They were in the black and white, usually polka dots. There was a blonde, there was a brunette. Tina and I used to, we were the Cinderella twins. That was like our alter ego.
Didn't they end up leaving with Bon Jovi in one of the videos?
Yes. Well, that was in one of the videos. They ended up like, getting together with Bon Jovi. But even if you try to find them, they're very difficult to find. If you try to find random people in a video and search and Google, that's very difficult to find these women's names.
Hey, if they can find the little naked baby from that Nirvana record, they can find these people. I mean, it's just a question of
you would think.
You just got to try a little bit harder.
I want my MTV.
Let's talk about fashion. This is an area I know that you're very interested, more so than me. I mean, look at how I dress. I mean, I'm not in fashion. So MTV was kind of like the catwalk at that point. People did look, especially in the case of women looking at Madonna or some of these other pop stars and getting ideas. In terms of the hair metal aesthetic, or what we look for. I mean, it was the teased hair, spandex, leather. Leather didn't matter, men or women, both wore leather pants and spandex. Teased hair, that was men and women. It certainly was not just a gender thing. And at some point, it went a little bit too far, and image became almost as important as your sound. I mean, for a couple of years, it was equal almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when we're talking about fashion, of course, MTV was a huge influence. Yes, I think probably everyone regrets the really big teased bangs. It was a lot of look, but it's the excess of the time. I mean, this is a very excessive decade. Well, I do remember Tina and I like scouring the mall for the perfect like black thigh-high boots. Like, boots were a big deal. Boots were a huge part of this era. And so, and then like long denim jackets or leather jackets, the jacket look was in as well, most of the time with shoulder pads of some sort. But absolutely, what a band looked like became just as important as what they sounded like. And to be honest, I don't think we've ever moved away from that paradigm. I think
I don't think so either.
All about visual. It's about visual.
Yeah, you can't go back to the days when it's just records and there's one photo on the back of the record and that's all you know. I mean, we live in a completely different era. So for better or worse, you do have to have a certain look. Now, do you remember any sort of fashion look or trend from that era, from the 80s era, that you tried and you kind of regret? Anything funny that you might want to?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I loved all my looks from the 80s. I don't know that there's anything that I regretted. I will tell you that, again, my best friend Tina, who I went through my whole 80s metal craze with, she used to have purple contacts. And I think she regrets the purple contacts, although they looked fantastic. But for some reason, like, that was like a thing in the 80s that she wanted different colored eyes. And so she had purple eyes. I thought it was amazing. But no, it really, the 80s were all about looks, and we'll talk about that a little bit too, even with some of the other videos like Duran Duran, for example. I mean, I have a passion for Duran Duran, but it did change the way artists were accepted by the public, because you look at Duran Duran and these gorgeous men, and they have these gorgeous women on this yacht or whatever it is, but you're going to be Kenny Loggins and compete with that? I mean, no one cares anymore. Like, that's why Little River Band, like I'm not shitting you. For the first time ever, just saw the lead singer of the Little River Band. Never knew what the man looked like. He's got
I couldn't pick out any of them from a Police lineup. Never.
No. And you didn't need to at that point. But once MTV came on the scene, it's like, you got to either be an attractive or interesting person to look at, or you're done. And that's kind of what happened.
I mean, I didn't really embrace too many of the 80s looks, but I did have long hair back then.
Wow.
And my mom, the word mullet didn't exist back then. Okay. So just so everybody understands, there was no such thing as mullet. But what my mom used to say to me was, okay, so you can have your long hair, but can't you have it like short on the sides? Because she didn't like the look on the front. So business in front, party in the back, textbook mullet. And that is what I had. So I sported a mullet in the late 80s, my maybe junior, senior year of high school. That was the way I did long hair. So that was my only sort of 80s look that I definitely regret. I mean, I've never owned leather pants or spandex. My look when I went to a show or something was a t-shirt of another band, a different band, because you never wear the t-shirt of the band you're going to see. That's dumb. A t-shirt of another band, so people would think you were cool. Like if you're at a Motley Crue show, you got a Rat shirt or something like that, and jeans and high tops, sneakers. Okay. I mean, that was the metal look.
I mean, I only remember a few of my actual outfits. I do remember when I went to see White Lion, I had a Princeton like crop top on for some reason. I'm sure I got it at 579 or something like that. And then I do remember when I saw LA Guns for the first time, I had a hypercolor t-shirt on. These were the shirts that like changed color. Like if somebody put their hand on you, like you could see the handprint. I was wearing a hypercolor tank top.
Wow.
I did end up backstage at that show though. So maybe there was something to the hypercolor that was really attractive to the men on stage. I don't know, but it was a good luck charm for me on that particular night.
I want my MTV.
MTV was almost responsible for ending ugly rock.
Right?
You're an ugly band. That's it for you. You don't have a career in the
artists from like the yacht rock era, which is a type of music that I absolutely love and adore. But I couldn't tell you what most of those people look like. I don't even know some of their names. I just know like the band, like Ambrosia, for example. I know the band. I don't know one person in that band or what any of them look like. No. But that's sort of like it was the end of that time and the beginning of when you knew what every single band member looked like.
Oh, yeah. And you couldn't just sound good. You had to look good. And of course, that hurt certain artists. I'm sure there are plenty of people. And you could also have a video where you went too far in the glam versus whatever looked like. I'm going to cite Billy Squier with his video Rock You Tonight from 1984. It is credited with destroying his career. Okay. He was, if you don't remember Billy Squier from the early 80s, he was a king. I mean, he was huge. His 1984 album came out. He had this video for Rock Me Tonight. He's dancing around in these pastel colors and he looked silly. And he's dancing on the floor and he's doing all of these super cheesy moves. Okay. And it ended him. He couldn't be taken seriously after that. And it sucks that happened because he was a great artist, but you could take it too far going for this, trying to impress people with your glam look and your attitude. It's like, you had to do it right. But
a lot of bands did not do it right. And I don't think that necessarily stopped them because like Motley Crue, for example, had some real doozies of music videos early on in their career, like with these stories and they're supposed to be warriors. And I mean, they had weird, strange videos and they landed on a planet full of women it was weird.
Well, Too Young to Fall in Love was this weird, like had this Japanese theme.
Yes.
And they were at this weird like market or whatever. And I remember Tommy throws rice at a guy or something. And I was just like, what are they doing? Where are they?
Dokken had some real doozies too. I mean, Dokken had some horrible videos.
Yeah, they were. I can't even remember a single Dokken video that was like stood out. I don't remember any of them.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
weren't good. I mean,
yeah.
go research some of them, and maybe we'll post them on social media this week. But no, they were not fantastic at all. But
No.
that didn't necessarily hurt them. Like at
They
that
still did
point,
well. I mean, they still did well, but maybe they could have done better.
My MTV.
The other factor that came in was, so you're making this visual statement about your song. And a lot of times these directors, they would try to interpret what they think the song is about. And so they
Yeah.
create a visual that they assume is what the song is about. And that becomes tied into the actual song. I remember so many artists in the 80s complaining that their video wasn't reflective of what they think the song is about.
It's
And-
interesting that the artists didn't have more say in that, though, which I'm sure some of them didn't. Some of them
Yeah.
were just sort of like slaves to the record labels, and it's like, we're producing this, and this is your image, and you're going to do it, and then they did it, and so
Right,
it's too
we're
bad.
we're
They didn't have
spending
a lot of
$250,000 fucking dollars on this video. You just do what you're told. Just
Yeah.
shut up and stand there or whatever. Look cute. You know, they didn't really care. But yeah, that was the big thing. I remember people talking about it, or they didn't want to do like a commercial for their song. But
Mhm.
it's like, man, that was almost the entire marketing concept in the
Oh,
80s
yeah.
for some of these bands
You had
was
to.
a video. And if your
Yes, you
video
had to.
didn't get played on MTV, your record was dead.
Right.
They had such a
Absolutely.
massive impact on your career, more so even than radio. You know,
You know,
I
and
think,
let's talk for a minute. I mean, your favorite band, Kiss, they had some awful videos.
Yes.
Awful.
I think I said it in a different episode where I said Whitesnake made videos that are memorable and epic and okay. Kiss made videos that people watched. That's all you can say about it. Yes, they were there.
They're
It
on.
happened. The video
they had
was
some bad
made.
ones.
My MTV. All right.
So as we're getting closer towards the end of this episode, we can talk about the decline of MTV and its legacy, because if you remember, by the mid to late 90s, there was almost no videos going on MTV anymore. I mean, it became reality shows. They did kind of invent reality TV with The Real World. And
Right.
I admit to watching the first 3 seasons of The Real World. I liked it at the time. Now I hate reality TV, but you know, and Punked and all these other shows, and it just sort of became different. I mean, MTV was not, it wasn't the M. Where was the M? I mean,
I definitely stopped watching it. Definitely stopped watching it. I mean, I think like 2011, when I was doing some research, was when they started to move away like consistently from regularly showing music videos. That's a long time ago. And I really lost interest. Now interestingly enough, I watch MTV now from time to time, because for some reason, the service that we have, the streaming service we have, like has like an MTV channel, and it'll be like a rock block. It'll be Yo MTV Raps or something like that. And so you can see like some of those classic videos again. I turn that on all the time, but
they
like
don't have
MTV's
DJs though.
channel just stopped.
Do they have DJs though, or they just play the videos?
No, they just play the videos. Just play the videos. No VJs. Just nostalgic. But yeah, MTV really stopped with music. It was no longer music at all. In some cases, nothing about music. It was just reality.
It was MTV, but the M must have stood for something else, you know? Now, do you think that now we can just go on demand on YouTube and look up any video you want? If I want to see a Poison video, I can look it up. If I want to go see Kiss, All Hell's Breaking Loose, I can just Google it and it's there. So do you think this YouTube era is better, or did we sort of lose something that was pretty magical about the way MTV used to be?
Yeah, I mean, it was magical because it was a communal viewing experience. So you would like know when a video was going to premiere. I remember that. And that was a big deal. Like tonight on Headbangers Ball, they're premiering the new video from Guns N' Roses. And it was like appointment television. Like I have to be there for it to happen, because I can't just turn it on and stream it whenever I feel like it. So rarely, you know, are you now watching videos with anyone else simultaneously? When an artist releases a video, which they still do, it's just out there on YouTube. Maybe you know when it's going to premiere, maybe you don't. And you're definitely not watching videos with an entire country on the same day at the same time. You know, it's very segmented and broken from that perspective. So I do think some of the magic is gone. There are certainly some benefits. I love being able to pull up anything I want anytime I want, but there are definitely, you know, that link that tied all of us together in the Gen X era is just sort of gone at this point.
There is no communal experience anymore on TV for the most part.
No.
And even network TV, or
even music for that matter.
Yeah, and network TV, I mean, most people watch the show the next day on like Hulu or something, or they DVR it or whatever. Nobody watches it at the same time. And on demand wasn't a thing in the 80s.
No.
And, you didn't have that. So I think we lost something magical. I did like that communal experience. I like with the days of with a cassette recorder trying to get something off the radio. I used to keep a VHS tape in the recorder with record and pause.
Same.
And I would wait for videos because I just wanted to be able to watch them again because you had no idea when it was going to come back. There was no order. There was no way.
I will say that broken link may be what started really the over-the-top popularity of live shows, because now that is a communal experience. If you want to go listen to Motley Crue music with a bunch of other Motley Crue fans, the way you do it is you go to the show. And then that is the communal experience that maybe this generation craves. Certainly that was available to everybody back in the day, but now it's really the only way to have like a bonding experience with other fans of a band.
Do you have three videos? What are your favorite videos that you would say are your favorites of all time? Regardless.
Well, this is a hard one because I was a diehard MTV fan, but I do have three favorites. My first favorite being Bon Jovi, Wanted Dead or Alive, because I was so entranced by that video. I watched it time and time and time and time again. Like you said, it was the one that I put on the VHS. I recorded on my VHS tape, and then I just kept rewinding. So Bon Jovi, Wanted Dead or Alive. My second one would have, now these veer away from 80s metal, but my second would have to be Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. This is the video that Michael produced where everything he touches lights up, like the sidewalk he's walking on.
It was a cool visual.
Against. And that so accurately describes how I felt about Michael Jackson at that time, that he was just absolutely pure magic. And this is also, the Billie Jean video is where I first remember seeing the moves, like where, balances on his toes and the kick flick he was so well known for. This was the song he performed at the 1983 Motown 25th anniversary special where he did the moonwalk for the first time. I mean, mind was blown. So Billie Jean, Michael Jackson, I had to get that in there. That was also my first concert. And then the third one I have to mention is Duran Duran's Rio in 1983. After I booked the band in 2024 and ultimately met them at that show, I said in a social media post that I have been subconsciously modeling my life after Duran Duran ever since 1983. And I still feel that way. They were so stylized, so glam, so elevated. They were British. And this video really cemented their superstardom at the time and cemented this idea that was certainly all about appearance. Not that the music wasn't great, but man, I mean, you just can't compete with Duran Duran from a visual standpoint. They were amazing.
Yeah, let's see. My favorite three, this is kind of hard. Is it really my favorite of all time? But I would say Van Halen's Panama. Great video. I love that. Just the way, I mean, I loved Roth back in that period, and the band, the way they played around, and they were just so, like, they looked like they were having such a great time.
Yes.
That I just wanted to be a part of it. I would say Epic by Faith No More.
Oh my God. Great video.
Yeah, great video.
Great song.
And it's a really great song. And Faith No More has been one of my favorite bands ever since then. And then last, I would say, again, off the metal tip, but I would say the Bangles' Hero Takes a Fall. That was their debut national video. Great song. It made me completely fall in love with Susanna Hoffs. I mean, it was hard not to when you see her busking on the street in LA, performing. And I was just like, oh my God, who is this girl? And I had a 41-year infatuation with Susanna Hoffs ever since that video. So
I want my MTV.
All right, folks. So that's our deep dive into the golden age of music videos when the screen and sound collided, and literally every single thing changed in the music world. I mean, if you weren't alive at that point, you just don't remember how. Yeah, sorry, you just don't remember how different it was beforehand, before MTV. It's like almost like before the internet. Like we both remember life before the internet too.
Yeah.
It was like a completely different world before MTV. A completely different world. I mean, music was the radio. That was it. So,
Incredible.
All right. I think this has been a really good one. I mean, a lot of nostalgia. It's been pretty fun.
We're good at nostalgia.
We are good at nostalgia. So, folks, next time on Rock of Aging, we're doing the lost albums, records that deserved more attention, the forgotten masterpieces, and the albums that almost everybody slept on. This is a topic very near and dear to me. I love the concept of the forgotten album, or, this should have been a hit. I can't believe this didn't do better. That's something that rock fans always love to talk about. Oh, why didn't this album do well? Why didn't it? So that's what we're going to be talking about on our next episode. Should be pretty exciting. You're going to want to find us again, social media, Instagram, Facebook. You'll be reminded about whenever the episodes are coming up. If you subscribe to the dark stuff, you don't need an extra reminder. You'll just get a reminder no matter what. We are putting out videos on the 10th of the month and the 25th. 10th and 25th every month. Rock of Aging.